So I was asked the role of parenting in everything, helping us achieve our goals or live the lives that we desire. And there are different levels to this, but then I'm going to, even though I am not yet a parent, I am a child. So I'm going to respond from the perspective of being a child and then knowing what the role of our parents are. So as Africans, our parents have a lot of authority in the sense that your parents can tell you what you get to do, who you get married to, the course you study, and all of that. And I feel like that is very controlling in the sense that this may not be what this child is good at, but then they are forced to do these particular things, right? So I'm going to take it back a little. The role of a parent is to be a steward. And a steward is basically a manager, somebody who guides. They're like shepherds, right? And I like to say that if it was up to the parents to determine or decide how the child's life turned out, they would have been able to create the child themselves. But then for a lot of parents, they know that all they did was they did the biological side of things, but then it was God that gifted them these children. And a lot of people talk about how children are a gift, but when they come, we begin to treat them as burdens. We begin to treat them as a clay that we get to shape into the way that we desire. And because a lot of parents don't pay attention to their children so that they can be better stewards to these children by helping them maximize their highest potential, this begins to build a lot of grudge. And then you find out that a lot of youths in Africa, or rather a lot of Africans living in Africa, don't get to achieve their highest potential. You're not seeing any new inventions coming out of Africa. We would only look at what somebody else has done and improve on it or create a better way of it. But something groundbreaking barely comes out of Africa. And in my opinion, this still goes back to our parenting. A lot of parents have given birth to another Jeff Bezos, another Mark Zuckerberg. Now, if you go through the stories of these people who are doing amazingly well in whatever field they have decided to pursue their career in, you would realize that some of them went to school and dropped out of school or didn't even go to school at all. And very importantly, they had the support of their family, they had the support of their parents. This is to show you how important it is to have the support of parents in whatever it is you're doing. But a situation where your parents already has a mind of their own, where they have decided what they want your life to be, it is often not in the best interest of the child. Even though, yes, we would always say, even though the parent will always say, I am doing this because I love you and all of that, but sometimes it is from the place of ego. Because, like I always say, if the parent is acting out of alignment with God, if they acknowledge that this child was a gift from God, and they know that God has created this child as a vicegerent who embodies the Spirit of God, they will go back to God to ask how to be better stewards to this child or these children they've been blessed with. This way, what they want for the child would align with what God wants for them. And if that is what God wants for them, of course, He's going to put that desire in the hearts of their children and everything will just flow. In the case where, they are unable to create that alignment, you would always experience misery or frustration, and they are unable to perform at the best level, or they are unable to perform and show up in their highest potential. So this is a huge challenge in Africa, where parents impose their decisions on their children. The parents need to start seeing themselves as stewards rather than dictators in the lives of their children. Now, this is for the parents. For us, the children, what happens is, yes, you may not have gotten the type of parenting you would have desired from your parents. You must have felt stifled by your parents. What I always recommend is for us to go through a process of reparenting ourselves. What are those things you feel you needed to hear from your parents that you never got to hear? What are those ways that you felt like your parents should show up for you that they didn't have the capacity to show up for you in? And like I always say, if they know better, they will do better, right? So it is important that we forgive them and we let go so that we can step into a better version of ourselves. Because when we hold on to that resentment, and trust me, a lot of African children are holding strong resentment against their parents, and this can also be a contributing factor to the reason why we are performing at a particular level rather than performing at a higher level. So if you find yourself in this type of situation, the first thing you need to do is to accept it, that your parents did not know better. They did not have the capacity to love you and provide you with the support that you needed. And it is now your responsibility to give yourself that or seek other means of you having or building that in your life. Secondly, we always have different opportunities. So if the opportunity came the first time and you missed it because of certain situations, you can always, that opportunity will come back some other time and you can make the most out of it. And this is again me calling out to parents, because today we are children, tomorrow we can become parents, or we were children and now we are parents. It is important that you don't use one method of parenting for all of your children, because children have different personalities, they have different capacities. So all you need to do as a parent is to identify those unique traits in your children and seek ways to nurture it rather than imposing them, putting them in a box because it is something that suits your ego. Want a situation where parents begin to parent from a place of alignment with God, from a place of harmony, from a place of deep connection, rather than ego. Because it is ego that would make parents to say, oh, you have to get married to this person, you have to do this. If not, I would disinherit you, for those who have a lot of inheritance to give, or I would disown you, you would no longer be my child. I know things like that. We've had a lot of people who have this anger towards their parents, and for some time, for a very short time, it helps them, it fuels their ambition to prove their parents wrong, right? Because somewhere inside of us, we would constantly seek the validation of our parents. That is how we have been programmed. That is life. We cannot say, oh, we don't care about, we really don't care their opinion and things like that. If you can talk to them in a way that will help them understand how important this thing is to you, do that. It is the tougher decision. But then at the end of the day, it's going to bear fruit. But it is also important that we choose our battle, at a certain level in your life. Probably sometimes you need to take some time away from them, build so they can see that thing, and then they are able to support you. Now, using myself as an example, when I started this, my parents would not hear about it. I didn't get the support I need from my parents, and it was frustrating. It felt like for every step I took forward, I had to take 100 steps backward. There were situations where people would see a video I made and they would send it to my parents, and I would hear things like, oh, you are a Muslim single lady in Nigeria, you cannot be doing XYZ, or I would need to travel for a training or travel, to do some work, and I would hear things like, oh no, you shouldn't be traveling, going all around the world. People would have different perspectives about you, or they would think negatively about you, all those things. And honestly, I know that it's from a place of love, but then I had to also have a conversation with them that this is the path I have chosen. And trust me, I didn't have that conversation just by myself. I had to pray and pray for God to soften their hearts, because of course they are no more than God, right? So we are all we are all at the end of the day under God. So I had to pray before having some of those conversations with them. There are times where we would have very heated arguments, and there are some times that we would just go without talking for some time. But I'm thankful that right now my parents gas me up, literally. When I tell them I am going for a speaking engagement or I have to travel for work, they give me the support I need, and I don't take that for granted. But I understand that there are some people who haven't gotten to this point yet, and I feel like I began to see most of this transformation when I forgave them and made them understand that yes, they did the best they could, but then their best was enough for that time, and now I am deciding to carve a path for myself, and all I need from them is their support. I know that they want the best for me as my parents, and in as much as they want the best for me, they are not in control of what that best is. And as an individual, as an adult, I have gotten to that point where I also know what is best for me, what is good for me in this stage of my life. So these conversations are conversations we need to have. They are difficult conversations, and we need a lot of diplomacy when we're having these conversations. We cannot do it alone. We need to pray and pray and pray and pray, so that at the end of the day, we get the results we desire. Sometimes, for some people, their parents are no longer here for them to have that conversation with them. But this is why we should, forgive them, so that we can move forward, because our inability to forgive and move forward is like running on the same spot, being held back by somebody who is no longer here. And it will do us a lot of good when we forgive them and just accept the fact that they did the best they could with all that they had. If they had known better, they would do better. And we use this information, this new knowledge, to become better parents ourselves, so we don't repeat the same cycle. Because what I have also observed is that some people who complained about their parents being literal dictators in their lives are also doing the same thing to their children. And this is why forgiveness is important. When we forgive, we break that circle. We break that circle of hurt, of pain, and create a new reality for ourselves and other people around us, especially our children. The children will get to birth, or those that will need to take care of at the end of the day. So if at any point you have felt that you didn't get the support that you needed from your parents, you need to let it go. It's not easy, but it is required. It is needed for you to move forward. Let it go, forgive, and create a new reality for yourself. Thank you.